In this video, we will cover how to share and to transfer a child protection or a GBV case in Progress Speed 4. The objectives of the video are to cover when to share or transfer a case, how to share a case, and how to transfer a case. While sharing and transferring cases both involve moving a case between two caseworkers, they are very different and should be used in different circumstances. When you share a case, it allows someone else to access the child protection case on a temporary basis. Only those who have access to the child protection module are able to see a case when it is shared with them. The ownership of the case does not change, meaning if I own the case and I share it with you, I continue to be the owner of this case. I can set a time limit for which you are able to access the file, and I could also revoke your access at any point. I can also control the extent to which you are able to access that file. I can make it so that you can only see the file, you can only see specific parts of the file, or that you could also see the file and make changes to the file. A common reason for sharing a case would be if a caseworker was to be going on leave and wanted to share their cases with another caseworker so they could do follow-up while that caseworker was out. In addition, perhaps a child is potentially going to be resettled and temporary access to that case file for the BIA needs to be shared with the resettlement unit so that they can see the information. That can be sharing a case. Now, transferring a case is different because instead of just sharing the case that you own with someone else, you are giving someone else access to that case and giving them ownership to that case. Again, only someone who has access to a child protection module is able to take over that file and is able to have a case transferred to them. A case transfer is permanent. Once I transfer a case to someone else, I lose my ownership. It is not for a temporary period of time. It is for the foreseeable future. Once that transfer is accepted by the new owner, I will no longer be able to access that case. There are several instances when a case transfer is more appropriate than a case share. When I will no longer be doing the day-to-day case management for a case, I would then transfer that case to the new focal point for that case. If an individual was to move locations, we would transfer it for that reason. If I was to have turnover and I'm quitting or leaving my position, I would then transfer my cases to the new caseworker prior to my departure. These transfers should be outlined in your case management SOPs and should be implemented in compliance with those. Now we're going to look at how to do this. When I'm ready to share a case, first things I will do is I will log in to Progress. I will go to the Child Protection module and I will go to the active child protection cases. I will then search for the case I am looking to share. And once I have located that case, I will click on the case number. Once open, I will notice that on the ribbon, there is the option to share the case. So I will click on Share Case. And a new case share will show up. Under General, it'll have the case share ID, which is automatically populated, the same with these child protection ID, individual share, individual access request, share expiry date, and share reason. So the question is that do I want this to be a limited share, such as do I want to put a date that this is only for 1 week? So what I will do is I'm going to have it be for 1 week because I will be on leave for 1 week. Sharing with, and I'm sharing because this will be my leave cover. Business unit will automatically be pre-populated. It will be within my unit. The share type, I'm going to share this with a user. I have the option here as well of sharing with a partner if that partner is using V4. I could also share it with a service unit or a partner service unit. Again, you want to make sure that you're sharing this with a very limited number of people because they will have access to the full case file or whatever parts you are specifically giving them access to. Now I'm going to give this access to a user, and now it's going to ask me the specific user. And so I'm going to find the caseworker that I'm sharing this with. Now I've found my case user. I'm then going to determine my share permissions. If I want them to be able to only see the case file, it will be read only. If I want them to also be able to edit it. So in this case, because they will be doing my casework, I want to do read and write so they could update the case notes if necessary. I would then indicate whether I want them to be able to see all the BIAs and the BIDs. For something like what I am sharing for this purpose, I will say yes. If I was going to share for another purpose where the person does not need to see all of that very sensitive information, I could also indicate that as no. So I have not consent overridden because I've gotten their consent. If you had to override for very extreme circumstances, which should be outlined in your case management SOPs, then you would write consent overridden here. And that is all you need to do. I'm going to save and close. Now that case has been shared for the following week. If I want to see where my case shares are, if I click on child protection and I want to see who I've shared with, if I come over here, I can see a list of my child protection case shares and I can see the status of them. And if I want to revoke it, then I could see revoked, and then I could change the status based upon that. So here's shared. Now, if I want to revoke their access, I will come up to the ribbon and revoke, and that will immediately change their access to nothing. If I wanted to extend their access, I would update share expiry and I would run it that way. So right now I'm going to update, and I'm going to change it to automatic expiration. I'm going to say no. For the time being, I'm going to actually just keep them having access, and that is now updated. If I wanted to revoke, I would just go to revoke, no longer needed. And now that child protection case share is revoked and that individual no longer has access to it. So it's important to recognize that while I have shared these cases, I continue to be the owner and I continue to have access. This is different from a child protection or a GBV transfer. When I want to transfer a case, there are multiple ways I can do this. One of which is to enter into the case and click on Initiate Transfer on the ribbon. Additionally, if I need to transfer multiple cases, I could click next to the cases I need to transfer, and I can initiate transfer on this ribbon as well. Once you've initiated the transfer, the new transfer request will appear. Same as in all other entities, until it is saved, there will be no unique identifier. It will just be the title New SGBV Transfer Request. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the type of transfer. This will be whether or not I'm doing it to a partner, whether I'm doing it that's using V4, whether I'm doing it to a UNHCR service unit, a partner service unit, or a user. The most common usage for transfer requests would be either transferring between one partner who's closing their partnership to another partner. That would be a multiple transfer request. Or more likely is when one caseworker is leaving, the transferring of their cases to a new caseworker. And that would then be using the user. So I'm going to select user, and then I'm going to identify the caseworker who will be taking over my cases. And now you'll notice the transfer status automatically sets to pending acknowledgement. Record request ID, SGBV case, business unit, owner, all of these are automatically populated. The only thing that I might need to enter whether consent was overridden. In the vast majority of cases, this will not be the case. You should always get the consent of the survivor prior to transferring the case. In some very specific cases that should be outlined in your case management SOPs, this might not be possible. And in that case, you would need to override consent, and then you would need to write down the justification for why consent was overridden when transferring this case. But that is not the case for my example here, so I did not override consent. I have now created my transfer, and I will go ahead and save it. And now you'll see there is a transfer request number that has been generated. It's important to note that until my transfer request has been acknowledged, I will continue to be the owner of this case and I will continue to have control. If at any point I want to see what the status of this transfers are, I would go to my SGBV and click on the arrow next to it. All of the entities will show up and I can come here to transfer requests and I can search for the transfer request I just did. And here I can see that it is still pending acknowledgement. If this was to continue for a while, I should follow up with this individual. If I wanted to revoke this transfer request or cancel it, I can open it up or I can cancel this request. And that would then annul what I've just done. If, for example, we're going to pretend I'm on the other side of this. If I was the person who this had been sent to, I would go on a daily basis and go and check my transfer requests. And if this had shown up for me, I would then click on my transfer request and then I would click on acknowledge request if I accept the transfer. The moment I do this, I now have control over this file and I will be able to see this file and the person who sent it to me will no longer have access. If I do not want this transfer for any reason, whether it's sent to me incorrectly, if I cannot take over this case, I would then instead click on reject request. With the rejecting request, it will require me to give the reason why I have rejected and then push OK. Once that happens, the transfer will be canceled. The person who sent it can remain in ownership of that case and the person who it was sent to will not have access to it. Once I am done with updating it, I will save and close. And that is how you transfer and share a case.